appreciate your asking me to come and share in this service for a few minutes this afternoon. I promised the pastor I'd be brief, but I do appreciate the opportunity of being here. I want to commend this church for what it's done over 30 years' time. I first became acquainted with this church on a personal basis when I came to Deming as pastor at First Baptist Church in 1968. I'd read about the church before that. I'd read about Robert Clark preaching a lot in it before that, and I got to meet some of these people personally. Then I became a director of missions. I'm in my 15th year now, and I preached here many times. First time, of course, was over in the old building that you've now torn down, and you built this lovely building almost exactly 9 years ago in May of 1981. I stood here at the pulpit and helped you organize the church and helped you to dedicate this building. Now you've built a lovely pastor's home. I just commend you for all that you've done, and I'm happy to bring greetings to you from Southwestern Baptist Association. Preached in this church last summer on a very hot day. Went down and spent the day with the Wells and on a very hot day. Came back and preached that night, and then most of you know I had an accident on Thursday after that, a motorcycle accident, and I was very badly burned. I'm saying that to tell you something else that I don't suppose I've ever told before in the church. I'm not sure. The insurance company, of course, there was $2,450 up front for deductibles, but after that, the insurance company paid 100% of a month's hospital bill, and doctor, surgeon's bill, and all that. And I got a bill from my surgeon for $3,000 for plastic surgery for doing some repair on my legs where I was burned very badly. And got a note from Aetna saying that his bill was too high. They would only pay $2,200 of it, so that left me with another $800 I didn't know I was going to have to pay. So I contacted the Home Mission Board Insurance Department, and they contacted Aetna, and they talked back and forth a time or two, and they called me and they said, the only recourse you have is to get that surgeon to write a letter and justify his charges. So I wrote my doctor, he was a Christian doctor. I had not known him until I was referred to him, a Christian doctor, and I asked him to write a note to Aetna and tell them why his charges were what they were. About a week later, I got a phone call from his office manager. He's the only doctor in the office. He has a nurse and a receptionist and a business manager, a lady who's a business manager. I got a call from her, and she said, Dr. Peterson is only going to charge you whatever the insurance pays. And I said, well, I appreciate that, but I said, if he's due this bill, I'd like to see him collect it. And she said, oh, we're going to try to collect it, all right. But said, whatever's left over, you're not going to owe anything. You're going to just owe what the insurance pays. At that time, I knew nobody in the office. I didn't even know if Dr. Peterson himself was a Christian. And she said something that I was absolutely unprepared for. She said, don't you know we're going to take care of you, O ye of little faith? I never had anybody in a doctor's office say something like that to me. So I bring you greetings and congratulations. I want to say just brief 2 or 3 things about the association. I told the pastor I would be brief. Many of you do not really comprehend my job as an association director of missions. I'm not sure I understand it myself sometimes. I see my job as being 3 things. Number 1, a mission strategist, to develop strategy all over the 2 associations for doing mission work. Second thing is giving executive leadership to the associations. And the third thing is helping churches in times of need. And I see that as one of the most critical things. I want to share with you a dream that I have in just a couple of minutes. I shared part of this last year at the annual meeting in about 30 minutes, but I'll promise you in just a couple of minutes. I have a dream to see 5 things take place among the churches in this association in Rio Grande and across the state. One of those is a reversal of the church growth trends we've had. 80% of the churches in one association, 75 in the other association, and I won't identify either, is either plateaued or declining. So I spend a lot of my time in helping churches to do strategy planning and analyze and try to determine where they're going. The second thing I'd like to see is a renewal among Southern Baptists. We had Henry Blackaby about 2 or 3 months ago in Rio Grande Association and First Baptist Church one Sunday night. All the other churches dismissed and came in. We had 700 people filling that auditorium on Sunday night. And if you know Henry Blackaby, if you've heard him speak, you know that something's going to happen. And something did happen that night. It happened to many of us. And he's the man from the Home Mission Board perspective who's saying a lot about renewal and prayer. And I'd like to see this spread across our convention. Third thing I'd like to see is a change in the problem that's caused the Sunday School Board to have to say recently that over 18 months period of time, 2,100 pastors were fired. That's epidemic proportions. And I'd like to see that reversed, wouldn't you?
Amen.
Go with my wife and me some night across the city or across the county and hold the hands of a man and his wife who've just been fired and have nowhere to go. And there's not much to do but sit there and cry with them often. Occasionally the association can step in and help a little bit, but you can't help very much. And I went into a church a number of years ago now, walked into a church to meet a group of people who wanted to fire the pastor. 15 minutes till 7 in the evening, I walked out of that auditorium at 15 minutes after 1 o'clock in the morning and accomplished absolutely nothing. It's epidemic proportions, and I think one of the reasons is that churches and pastors often do not fit together. And so in working with churches, I try to get them to draw a profile of what they want for a pastor and then go have their pulpit committee go looking for that kind of person. The fourth thing I'd like to see is Southern Baptists and churches here doing more about personal evangelism. I have an idea we talk more about evangelism than we talk about Jesus. And I'd like to see that reversed. And the last thing, I'd like to see us more effective in worldwide missions than we are now or ever have been. Let me tell you something you've heard before, but let me reiterate it. If we don't make a reversal of things in the near future, the cooperative program is in trouble. We've got a lot of new, young people who are coming up who weren't taught the cooperative program like you and I were. And if we're not careful, we're going to be in deep trouble. I am a product of the cooperative program. I don't support it for that reason. I support it because I believe in it. I'm a product of it. I went through Eastern New Mexico University of Florida because the Baptist Convention in New Mexico provided the Bible chair there. I went through 2 of our seminaries and earned 3 degrees in our seminaries. I could never have gotten that quality in an education except it was underwritten by the cooperative program. I believe in it from a personal standpoint, but I believe in it because I don't know anything else that will do a better job. And I think these people who are criticizing, it's time they stop criticizing and sit down somewhere and figure out something better. And when they do, then I'm ready to junk it and go on to something better. But I believe in our mission program, and I have a dream of those 5 things, to reach out to the world through our mission program, through our cooperative program, to reach the world. Thank you for inviting me. Again, I congratulate you. I feel a very special closeness to this church, very special warmth. I've preached here many, many times. I've always been warmly welcomed and always felt very close to this church. Thank you.
I'm not as gracious as Brother Hutcheson is. I didn't promise the pastor I was going to be brief. He told me that we were scheduled to go to 4 o'clock, and if I want to keep talking and the rest of them leave, just keep on talking. But you're invited to stay if I'm still talking. You know, I think I'd have done all right here. He turned somewhere and give me that plaque. I wasn't expecting that. Glad my wife has it. She can keep it back there. I want to tell you a little bit of something that I recollect about our work here. Evelyn and I moved our family here, back here. We both lived here at one time, but we moved back here. We've been gone 10 years. And in the meantime, we had found the Lord. And Brother Cole and I was talking a while ago, and I tell you, a fellow like Guy Petty leads you to the Lord, you know the Lord. There's no mistaking that you know the Lord. When you got through it, you knew the Lord. And I spent 6 years in the first church in Lordsburg. We served there and served in some mission work there and done what we could, but we had to move back over here. And we moved in early 1958 in the spring, but there was no Baptist work. Between Silver City, and that time we owned the Glenwood camp, between Silver City and Glenwood, we had no Baptist work at all, and we was here, I don't know, several months, and 4, 5, 6 months maybe, and it just didn't seem right that we didn't have our Baptist church to go to. I know there's other good churches in this community. I'm not trying to put them down. What I'm saying is I was a Baptist. I enjoyed the Baptist work. And so one night, I went back to the Lordsburg church, and I met with a fellow that was a rancher. Named Joe Rouse. He's with us today. Sitting right back there. There's another fellow by the name of George Evans. He was a railroader. There's another fellow by the name of Morris Tummons. He was a border patrolman. And there was another fellow there by the name of Sam Gass, and he was the superintendent of waterworks, I believe it was the water department in Lordsburg. Another fellow by the name of Ed Brown that was there. He was a building contractor. As I remembered, he had a building contracting business. A fellow by the name of Wesley Freeburg was the superintendent of schools. And there was myself, and among us was our pastor, Dan Stringer. We all had something in common. We were children of the Lord. We had met together. It was a deacon's meeting. And I went to the deacons that night, and as near as I can pinpoint this, I was talking to Dan, it was probably October. We decided it must have been October of 1958. And the deacons agreed to bring to the church a recommendation that they extend an arm of the church in a mission in this community up here. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe we have a fellow here that brought the motion that the recommendation be accepted, and his name is Harold Bishop. He and his wife are with us today. And I believe he was the one that brought the motion that the recommendation of the deacons be accepted that night. And what they done, they told me this. They said, if you will be responsible, if you will be the moderator, if you look after that work, and you will go there, we will extend an arm of the church. So they gave me the authority to come back and to establish a functional and effective arm of the church and in a mission point in this community to serve this area, the entire area. We serve quite a little area here in these communities here. And then it was through the efforts of Brother Dan Stringer that, and you're going to hear from him later, so that we obtained $1,000 from the Home Mission Board. He just said to me while ago, he said, did I do that? And I said, you sure did it for us. And then I said something else I kind of got away with. I think I think your dad was in charge of the mission work in the state at the time, and we may have had a little help there. I don't remember. But anyway, we got $1,000 from the Home Mission Board that was given to us. But you know, it wasn't that easy. I found that out. It wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. We got the money the latter part of '58. And in '59, I began to look around. We had a peculiar situation. We had a limited amount of money. We had to have land with a building that would be suitable for us to worship in, that we could spend very little money on to remodel because we just didn't have the money. And we had to be able to buy it at an affordable price on terms we could afford. Well, I looked around and I looked around and I looked around, and finally I bought a piece of land. And it was down the road, right down here, facing north, facing the mountains, had a beautiful view, and had an old house, the roof was falling in, and floors was caved in, but we figured the walls was good, and figured, well, we could fix this thing up. So I bought this piece of land, give him $700 earnest money on it, out of that 1,000. Bought it from a real estate shyster. That's what it was. He was a shyster. He Not all real estate fellows are shysters, but this one was. And he sold me that piece of land, and we went for 9 months, and he couldn't produce a title to it, a clear title. He couldn't give us a clear title. He kept saying all the time, go ahead, do what you want to do. Do what you want to do. You want us to fix this building up. I know what you want to do. You want us to fix this building up. But he never could give us a title to the property. So this went on for 9 months. No work started, money tied up, couldn't do anything. Finally, I just told him, we got to have our money back. That's all there is to it. I just got to have it back. And you know, the old boy gave it back to me. And it wasn't 2 days' time. Here come a woman one night knocking on my door. We were in the house down here, and she knocked on my door one night. And of course, I knew this lady for many years. And she says to me, says, I understand you're looking for a place to begin a church here, a Baptist church. And I said, yeah, but I'm sure not having much luck at doing it. And she said, well, I've got a proposition that I want to make to you, and I don't think she would mind at all. She's not with us anymore. She's gone to be with her Lord. I don't think she'd mind me telling you what she said to me that night. She says, well, I've got a proposition to make to you. She says, I've got my mother home. She's terminally ill. And she says, if you will preach my mother's funeral, she says, I'll see that you can have that property, that you can buy that property. And so something like, well, I don't know, a few weeks, it's just a matter of a few weeks, we purchased the property, this present property. There was an acre of ground in the old building that set over here was a 4-room house. And we purchased that from the heirs of Edith Clella Cook. I don't know whether you all remember Edith Clella Cook. That was who the lady was. And so we purchased this. We gave them $500 down. We bought it for $5,000. We gave them $500 down and 9 years on the balance at 8%. This is the way we bought it. Well, just what we were looking for. So here we ended up. We had another $500. I went out and I found an individual, happened to be my uncle, by the way, and he wasn't doing anything. He was a jackleg carpenter, but he could do some pretty good work, you know. So I went over to the proposition with him, so asked if he wouldn't come and consider doing some work for us on that building so we could start holding some services there. We had some petitions to move, and we didn't have enough money to do much work, but we wanted to halfway be like a church, you know. And so he said, yeah, I'll come out there and work for you. So he worked for us. I don't remember how long it was, but anyway, when he got through, he presented me a bill for $725. I didn't have that come out. I'd already spent $168 on material in that thing, and I just didn't have much money left. We had, well, I don't remember what it was, $92, my arithmetic's right. $392 left. And so I went over and I talked to him, and I sat down with him, and he's over to my mother. He's staying over my mother. He was getting free groceries anyway. He was living off his mother. So anyway, I sat down and I told him, now Charlie, I said, we're kind of up against it. I said, we haven't got $392 left over in the kitty. We don't have any work started, no money coming in. And I said, you give me a bill for $725 in labor. And I said, we just don't have the money. I said, couldn't you consider taking what we got, a 333 shortfall we got, then you could come to church and maybe the Lord give it to you in blessings if you just come to church. He looked at me and said, who's going to do the preaching? I said, well, I am. He said, I believe we'll settle for $392. No, he never did come to church. Well, here we had a building just about finished. One day I was driving over the T&M Day. What do you call it? Hanover. And here was this little Church of Christ, and all these little pews were stacked up on the side of the building out there, kind of near the eaves. Try to protect them with just enough where the water would run right off of them. You know how we store things nowadays. And I looked at them things over, and I thought, well, we sure need some pews. So I went over to Mr. Morrison, half the dairy. I knew he had something to do with the church. And I said, Mr. Morrison, I said, we'd sure like to trade you out of those pews. I said, I'll haul them off for you if you want to get rid of them. Oh, he said, can't do that. He says, they expect some money out of them. I said, well, I'll tell you what, how much did you take for them? He said, you going to pay cash? I said, no, I want to buy them on credit. And he said, well, tell you what, we'll take $50 for them. How soon can you pay us? 6 months. I said, all right, 6 months. We'll pay you in 6 months. So I bought those old pews, and they were handmade, homemade pews. I know a lot of you remember little 1x4s, you know, the kind you slide across to get your attention, you know, the old splinter, and all this kind. We dabbed a little paint on them, drove the nails down there, stuck it in the building. So now we had a building, now we had some pews. Wasn't paid for, but we had the pews. So it was on Easter Sunday morning, 1960. Now this had been, what, 14 months or so since we received the money, 15 months since we received the money from the whole mission board. So you see, the work wasn't progressing like I wanted to progress, it was progressing like the Lord wanted to progress. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I realized later this is just the way He wanted it done. So here we were, 10 individuals present. We had 2 children under 4 years of age. We had 2 babies under 6 months of age. And we had 6 adults in our first service on that Easter Sunday morning. You know, I'm proud to say that we've got some of those individuals here this morning, today. We've got, not all of them are here. One of those babies is in the Navy. I don't know where he's at today, but he's in the Navy somewhere. The other baby's right here, 4.5 months old. She's sitting right there. And a 16-year-old sitting over in a wheelchair. He was here. We counted him as an adult. He really wasn't, but we counted him as an adult. And we had another one back there who was under 4. There's old Jerry. He's here. He was here that Sunday. We have Jean here. She was here that first Sunday morning. Jean Dixon was here. My wife and I were there. And Mrs. Moore was there. And you all remember Mrs. Moore. And there was Mrs. Adair. And that made up our 10 individuals that first service. Who?
I was there.
Oh, it's you. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but that made up our 10 members for that first service that morning. So here we were, 10 individuals, a piano donated by our mother church. They gave us a piano. We still have the piano right back here in the back. And they gave us a piano. Here sat the piano, nobody to play it. We came in, we sang a cappella that day. We preached from an old homemade pulpit made out of the straps from our remodeling over there. And we preached from that. And singing this a cappella, preaching from this homemade pulpit. And we had our first service in 1960, and it was almost 2 years from the time we set out to do what we wanted to do or get the business started. But we were in business for our Lord that day. We finally were in business for our Lord. But you know, the Lord says He's not slack in providing for our needs. He'll provide for our needs. And I thought, who's going to play the piano? Who's going to do the preaching? They don't want to listen to me do the preaching. Now, there's a lot of things that we need here. And you know, within a week's time, the Lord took care of those needs for us. Our director of missions at that time was Brother Roy Watson. And he and his wife Goldie and their canary bird, they always brought their canary bird. Always suspected she brought the canary bird because of her heat system over here. She kept an eye on that bird all the time. See, it's going to keel over. Carbon dioxide gases in the area. That's the only reason she brought the canary bird. I've used her several times. But Brother Watson and his wife Goldie, along with their canary bird, they came, they joined our work. We organized into a mission at that Sunday. And I believe we had, I don't remember, 10 members that joined that particular Sunday at that particular time. Well, 30 years later, we still got the old piano back there. In fact, that's about the only thing we got left, that old building over there in that first floor. We got the old piano, the canary bird's gone, Brother Watson's gone to be with his Lord. And talked to Mrs. Watson last Sunday and visited with her. She's staying with her daughter now in Albuquerque, Evelyn Ingram, and she is practically homebound. And